Why do happier people sell more? There's this brilliant study. They're looking at call operators in call centers, and they work very much on their own, which is not a good way of working, by the way, because it's unhappy to work very much. But the brilliant thing from a research perspective is you're looking at the pure effect from just them to their sales. There's not like team things, there's not collaboration, it's just the effect from them to them. And they're on the call, right? And they show that happier call operators sell more than ones who are unhappy. Okay.
Of course.
Why?
I mean,
but why? Why? Really get down to it. So they started unpicking what the calls were.
Welcome to this episode of Everything Communicates. I'm sitting here today with my new friend, Nic Marks. Nic, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, David. Good to be on.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I've been looking forward to meeting with you. It's a brand new show, but I've already got a nice roster of folks that are coming onto the show, CEOs and innovators, people who are doing new things in business, new things in communications, and we really believe that everything that you want, that I want, that a CEO wants, that a salesperson wants, everything that everybody wants, okay, is on the other side of great communication. I discovered Friday Pulse and what you guys are doing over there, creating happiness. That's what you're all about, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're about building happy and successful teams. And most certainly relationships and communication are the absolute heart of that, absolute heart of it.
And I absolutely love that. I'll tell you, I had the pleasure of working for Zoom for the last 3 years. And Eric Yuan, the CEO of Zoom, he's fantastic. I don't want to say the word idol. I don't idolize him, but he's certainly somebody that I look up to and respect. And he takes this idea of, putting employees first to a new degree. I've got another CEO that I worked for, Matt Blumberg. He's going to be on the show. And when I worked for him, he had the 4th best mid-sized company in the US to work for. And they both had the same philosophy: take care of your people. Your people are your first priority. And every company says that they put their people first and their people are their first assets, right? It's just often not really practiced. I think a lot of people, who work at these companies wouldn't necessarily say that, oh yeah, our CEO, our company puts us first. I think they would say that they put shareholders first or they put customers first. But these two men that I've had the pleasure of working for, I feel, and many of us felt like they really put us as employees first, and with the expectation, of course, you do that with the right people, and they will put the customer first. You take care of your people, they take care of the customers, and it all works together to make the shareholders very happy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar philosophy to the late great Tony Hsieh, who was the founder of Zappos. I worked with Tony quite a bit actually in the early 2000, about 10 years ago. And, he used to always say, if you want happy customers, you've got to have happy employees first. Right. And absolutely trained in that way, actually had their values in that way. I mean, Zappos were they were a little bit out there. I mean, one of their values was be a little bit weird, which was certainly Tony too. But they, they would do things like train their call operators to really use their own judgment in building a conversation with a customer. I remember him once giving me this great example that, if someone's on a call with somebody and they hear a dog barking in the background and you like dogs, say, oh, what's your dog? How's your dog? And just that human to human relationship, of course, is what drove Zappos' sales, because it was a crazy idea, Zappos, at the beginning. It was selling shoes online. I mean, who sells shoes online? Right. He once called it the poster child of the worst internet business, but he built $1 billion business out of that idea, and it was based on customer service, and his customer service was based on really looking after his employees and making it a great place to work.
So you had the pleasure of working for him, you said?
I worked with him. So, we launched a Happiness at Work survey, and Tony had written a book, Delivering Happiness, I guess, yes, about 2008, 2009, something like that. And I started talking to him because, I'm a statistician and we measure. You're looking for the book? Yeah, I've got copies.
And look, I'm looking for the book right now. I think I have it.
It's definitely on my shelf behind me. But he was launching a consultancy business called Delivering Happiness, and so we built their first happiness at work survey for them. And so and Tony helped launch that, and it didn't go as spectacularly as a business as we wanted it to. You know, Delivering Happiness, I'm more interested in consultancy. We needed to create a business which was more based around measurement. That's my skill. I'm a statistician. But it was a great relationship, and certainly learned a lot from him over the 3-4 years that we worked together. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. That's very interesting. Yeah, so I do have the book somewhere.
Yeah.
Again, it was one of Eric Yuan's top books that he recommended that we read. There was two that I remember. There was that one, and I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. I remember it's Speed of Trust.
Oh, I don't know that book.
Oh, it's fantastic. The
Yeah.
tagline is the one thing that changes everything.
Ah.
Yeah. And
We're all looking for the one thing that changes everything.
are we? Yeah. And I really think it is. Actually, after reading this book, I've come up with two things that I center my life around, that I create my life with, actually. I'm very clear on what I want to create in my life. I actually, you know, this is kind of dorky maybe, but I have it all graphed out. And I've shown people this, and you know, a lot of people are impressed with it and inspired to maybe do the same thing. But I'm clear on what I want to create, and the means for me to create what I want is two things: authentic communication and trust. These are my two principles for life, my two biggest you know, pieces of advice for anybody. And what I have found to be at the heart of creating the relationships that you want, right? And whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your children, whether it's with your colleagues, whether it's with your customers, it's authentic communication and trust. So I highly recommend the book Speed of Trust. Honestly, life-changing. It goes through the importance of trust and how to create trust, how to restore trust. And the two just go hand in hand together perfectly, because you create trust through authentic communication.
Yeah, I mean, trust is about consistency a lot, isn't it? That people can rely on you. That
Yeah.
You know, and so it's very linked to authentic communication. Yeah, I mean, relationships are difficult. You know, let's be honest about it. You know, I would hazard a guess that any and everybody listening to this, watching this, that their most challenging thing has been a relational issue. I mean, you might be a personal health thing, but nearly always it's relational. You know, humans are complex, you know, we're unpredictable. Other people, we don't even know what we're going to do ourselves sometimes, let alone what other people are going to do. So relationships are difficult, and they take time. They take time to build. I mean, and in a time pressured world, you know, of work where everyone is very busy, you know, do we dedicate enough time to the relationships, you know, in our teams and across our organizations? I would say no. I would say, and people, and of course, people think it's a waste of time building a relationship, but no, because if you build strong relationships, it saves you time in the future, because basically you've got people you can trust, people you can rely on, people are going to stay with you, they're not going to leave your team, and you know, and if you have to recruit new people, that takes a lot of time and a lot of stress. So it is worth the investment of time, and actually, it's the most amazing return on investment you get from building relationships.
Do people think it's a waste of time to build relationships?
Well, I mean, when you get to the push and shove of team leadership, sometimes, you know, in the sense that team leaders can be really stressed and busy. I think often organizations are really poor at thinking about how much time it takes to lead a team. People are promoted for technical services, technical skills, people skills. So, you know, and they're not trained to do that well enough. But, you know, spending time, if you're a team leader or business leader, you know, you need to spend time with your people. That's, you know, and if you're a parent, it's exactly the same. You need to spend time with your kids to build a relationship.
Yeah, I agree. And so this is actually why I charted out what I want to create in my life, so that I can be very intentional and very deliberate about it. And so I am, and I know where I'm spending my time and why I'm spending it there. So yeah, I 100% agree. I think this is one of the biggest things that we could benefit from as people, as a society, is really taking the time out to, and just like you were saying, right? We think we don't have the time for relationships. We also think we don't have the time to stop and just think about creating. What are we creating? And we're just so busy running on that hamster wheel that we sometimes don't take the time out to stop and think about, what am I running after? Like, why am I running so hard? What am I trying to create? Before I die, we've got a limited amount of time on this earth. What are we doing? Right. And I think it would just behoove us to take a beat and just stop and do an exercise. Again, I've created an exercise that I've found tremendously helpful, and I think other people have as well. But take the time to consider, what is it that you want to create? So what are you creating while you're here?
So, I mean, actually, I am someone that probably has done that as a process, and I mean, I'm my sort of personal mission is to build a happier world, which sounds very big, but of course it is. But I think that we've got too busy, too materialistic in some ways, and not relational enough. And that, the relationships are what drives happiness and well-being, not material goods. So, how do we build a more relational world? And that ties to both our experience of life, and it even ties to things like climate change and things like that, because clearly we have to dematerialize the economy if we're going to actually deal with climate change. So there's a lot of ways that I think there's a huge benefit from thinking about our relations more. But what I particularly focus on now is work, and that might sound a bit tangential, but the logic I went for that is that we spend so much time at work. And actually, if you want to reach adults and talk to them about how their lives are going, work is a brilliant place, because there's an immediate win-win in there, which is that people who are more positive and happier, are more productive, more creative, more innovative, more loyal. There's lots of successes that flow out of that. And so I needed to find something, that could pay the bills as well. So that's kind of how I got into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I find it, as I think about myself as an example. So I love Europe. I love to travel in Europe. I love the European culture, and I get that each country is different, but by and large, one of the things that I love is that their work-life balance is so much more balanced. When I go to Italy or Spain or France, work is not their everything. They're not living their lives purely for the sake of work and having their lives revolve around work. They work enough so that they can afford the things that they really truly want in life. And it's not the big properties and the big cars and all that fancy stuff. It's socializing. Again, this is my view on it as a tourist, right? As a traveler.
Time use studies would support you in the sense that the French were famous for trying out a 35-hour week. They've trialed having a law that you can't send emails after 6 p.m.
Right.
There's sorts of ways that they're looking at how you define that boundary between life and work. But the French also had the problem that everyone wants to retire at 62, and their economy is going to struggle as they have an aging population. So there's different challenges that do that. But the more south you get into Europe, the more probably Catholic, the more you get closer to the warmth of the Mediterranean, the slower life tends to go.
Right.
But it's not the only thing that drives happiness, because actually, if you look at the happiest countries in the world, they're actually Nordic. So Finland, which is definitely not warm, though it has very long sunshine in the summer, but they're the happiest country. But that's much more to do with the income distribution in the country rather than just simply the number of hours that people work.
Yeah, right. So but that's the whole point, right? They structure their societies differently.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to go to different places and to travel, is to see, how do other people do it? How do other societies and people live? What are they prioritizing? And a lot of other people in a lot of other countries are prioritizing around things that truly matter, I would say, at least what truly mattered to me. But I'm bringing that up to say that I'm living in a bit of a paradox. I relate more with the Europeans who have more, in my view, a better work-life balance, But here I am jumping in and switching my work-life balance all the way to work. I've jumped in as CEO of my own company, and I've gone, further than I've ever been. Right. And so it's funny. But I'm doing that with a purpose. I'm doing that so that I can shift from here to where I want to be, which is that better work-life balance. So that I can start prioritizing the things that I really want in life.
Work-life balance, you have to think about in what time frame do you think about it. And of course, sometimes there are sprints of work. That's what it is. I'm in the moment working on a book, and sometimes if I get in a good flow, I'll work really late, and sometimes I'll knock off early because I'm not in a good flow. But there's been times in my life when I work really hard. At the moment, I'm not working hard. I just, I'm getting older. I'm obviously quite a bit older than you, and it's like you just start to think about, well, how do I manage my energy? I mean, I want to work till I'm 80. I don't particularly want to stop working, but I want to pace myself now. So that's one of the things I think you learn. And of course, privilege allows you to do that in some ways. If you're starting a business, that's hard. I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing is, these things are marathons, not sprints, and you do have to be careful, because the people who are most likely to burn out are the ones that are passionate about their work, because they keep on going the extra mile, and then boom. So you have to be careful about that. If someone starts, you're getting overstressed, do listen, because other people will spot you're burning out before you do, because you're intense. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel that in the beginning, I was I would wake up at 4 a.m. and just like ready to go. Right. I would sneak over to my desk and grab my computer and phone and glasses and head down to the basement, try not to wake up my wife, and head down to the basement, and I would just work. And, I was just filled with passion, and then I'd work till 2 p.m. and then I would crash, and then I'd get up at 3, just take a nap, and I'd wake up at 3. And I'd work till like 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. I don't do that anymore. I start at a more reasonable time, but I still go to 11. But it's all, for me, it's still all works in my plan, because I'm creating what I want, which I've got my priorities. I'm not going to list them out right now, but it is all part of my plan. You started your own company, Friday Pulse.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's been a journey, because I previously worked in public policy, and I, became a statistician that advised firstly the Tony Blair government and then the Cameron government on how to measure well-being. So, I had some success, and it was rather unexpected, because I didn't really I don't know. I believed in what I was doing, but I thought the world was quite a long way away. I mean, I've been working it 10, 15 years by that time. And then I decided, because the UK government actually committed to making a wellbeing indicator, national wellbeing indicator, and that was the aim of my policy group, was to get the UK to do that. Because once they measure it, they're going to start taking notice of it. And I thought, okay, I don't want to sit in committees for the next 5 years arguing about how you word things, how you question something. They've got the impetus now. Unfortunately, Britain took a different turn, which was with Brexit and everything else, and well-being, and some of Cameron's ideas, which some of his ideas I really supported. I wasn't a big fan of the austerity and the cuts, but I was a big fan of his idea about well-being and big society. But he, so we've taken a different tack. But so at that time, I decided, I'd done my TED Talks. I did a TED Talk on my work, and I thought, okay, I'm going to set up a business now. And I kind of underestimated how hard that is. and also, I'm an innovator. I mean, in fact, I'm pretty sure it was the CEO of Zoom. What was his name? That your ex-boss,
Eric Yuan.
I think he said once that ideas are easy, execution is difficult. And that Zoom wouldn't have been a success if it had been 5 years earlier. It probably wouldn't have been a success if it was 5 years later. There were other people doing video platforms, but their execution was better. I remember we used to use one. Well, I can't remember what it's called before, and then we switched to Zoom because it seemed much better. So pre-COVID, we'd already switched to Zoom, but if people use Teams, I'm sorry, I think Zoom's much better. But I mean, Teams works. I mean, and other ones do too, I'm sure. But Zoom is cut through, because it's just simple execution, and that is difficult. So I've got a very simple idea, which is that businesses should measure team happiness every week. Every week should ask people how happy they were, because our happiness goes up and down very, very quickly. And actually, if a team is struggling, you need to know quite quickly. So that's what my business does. But everything becomes about the execution, because it's quite a simple idea. We're way ahead of the curve on thinking about it and why it's important and how we do it. But clearly, it's also like a video platform. You can take that idea and someone else can build it too. So it becomes about execution. It becomes about the knowledge that we can wrap around that and things like that. And that's not easy. Not easy. Yeah.
What's not easy about it? What's the most difficult?
I don't think marketing is easy. And I would say that we're only just starting to really work out how we message what we do, which is communication, which is what you do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think these go together perfectly, which is why I really wanted to interview you. Happiness is what I'm all about. So this is going to sound probably narcissistic, but I'm all about creating my happiness while I'm here on Earth, right? So on my chart, the very first thing is creating my happiness, right? And my wife hates that. She's like, it's not all about you, Dave. She's not wrong, right? But it is all about, for me, it is all about creating my happiness. Now, how do I create my happiness is not all about me, right? It's not, right? It's if you look at my chart, it's not all about me. It's all about the people in my life that I want to create happiness with. So what I'm creating in my life is to be happy. And the way that I'll be happy is by helping other people to create their happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the way that I'll do that is through authentic communication and trust.
Yeah.
I built this company because I really think that it is the most critical thing. If we think about all the building blocks of business, of course, sales and profit and managing your expenses and all these kind of things. But to me, the most primary of all the building blocks is communication. They say that nothing happens until somebody sells something, and that's true. But also nothing happens without communication. Like there is nothing to sell. There is no product. There's no sales team. There's no engineering. There's no there's nothing. You've been innovating, and the work that you've done with the government is incredible. But there's nothing without you communicating any of that to anybody. There was nothing except Nic Marks with an idea in his head.
Absolutely. And I say I'm a statistician, but really I'm a communicator of statistics. I'm not I can do technical statistics. I'm a little rusty on it because actually, I work with other statisticians. I always cite other people's work, but what I am actually really good at is understanding how to communicate those statistics, how to build tools that people can use, and to understand what people want from an indicator and how to sell it, basically, how to communicate it. And that's actually my skill. There's a couple of skills I've got which are innate. So one of the communication, the other one is actually just a statistical one about seeing the relationship between things. I was the really annoying guy at school that was head of maths, I was top of maths without trying. And they used to sit me next to other kids and they'd say, can you explain to them what? And I go, yeah, this, and you see that, boom. And they just, the seeing was not there. And that's like, and I didn't understand they couldn't see it. And it's like, and that's, it's something that, I'm lucky with. We've all got, strengths that we have, but I've decided that, yes, I want to make the world a happier place or a more just place or whatever. And statistics are my weapon of choice in that journey, because that's my, there's lots of people there who write excellent books on happiness and there's super coaches or things like that. So the thing that I bring to the pot is measurement. And that is innovative, and it is playing to my strengths.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your mission of what you're trying to do to create, the world to be a happier place. How do we do that? How do we partner together? Like, from my side, it's all about authentic communication and trust. Yeah. What do you see from your side that will get us there?
So I go back to measurement, and I think that numbers are the language of business, numbers are the language of government. Actually, governments are more narrative-led, actually more story-led than they are evidence-based. I mean, it'd be really nice to have evidence-based government, but unfortunately we don't. Mainly around the world, we tend to have, idea-led, idealization. But businesses are really empirically led. It's a very, very real world, the business world, because if the numbers don't come in, it's away. So I mean, I don't know whether you suck it or it's an opportunity, but Zoom have gone, our costs are too much, right? We're laying off whatever it was, 20%, 30% of the thing. And it's good business sense. It's hard people management, but it's the whole tech world has had that very recently. There's been a whole slicing of jobs away across the big tech companies and small ones. A lot of them have cut their numbers by 20-25%. And so business is actually really at the coal face of this. This is really the hard edge of it. And so numbers do it. So my idea with happiness is it feels intangible. It's really important. Relationships are really important. Let's put some numbers on it. And most businesses they don't have good people metrics. They might do an annual engagement survey, but I mean, that's out of date as soon as it's published. It's gone, right. So long and boring. I mean, nobody enjoys an engagement survey landing in their inbox, Yeah. It's not a pleasure. And so how do you create a tool that is actually more helpful? And it's all about feedback. It's all about communication. It's like, can you do it in real time? So we ask on a Friday, the results are ready on a Monday. Boom, they're ready instantly, but we don't close the survey till Monday morning. So if people forget on Friday, they can get reminded on Monday. But it's like, and then you look at what went well last week, what didn't go well. How do you fix it? So you're really into that beloved idea of friction and flow that lots of tech companies do with their coding, with everything else. How do we reduce friction, increase flow, and ultimately that's what building happiness is exactly about. That's what life is about, actually.
Yeah. So this is a challenge I'm having, and I'm wondering if it's the same challenge you run up against. And even in starting the company and kind of formulating my thoughts and working with my advisors, they cautioned me to get very clear on, the business results, especially if I'm going to be targeting CEOs. What are the business results that communication can bring? And actually, one of my very smart advisors says, because I was talking to him about, we're going to help a company to solve some of their biggest challenges and have better culture, more connected and engaged employees, and more connected and engaged customers. And his response was, yeah, but what's that going to do for sales? I'm like,
yeah.
What do you mean? What is that going to do for sales? He's like, no, you have to draw a line to sales. I'm like, I don't have to, like, are you telling me I have to draw a line for the CEO on how more happy employees and happier customers, more connected and engaged, is going to lead to more sales? Surely I don't have to explain that to a CEO, right?
You do. And if you don't, someone else is going to have to in the organization. So whoever you're speaking to is going to have to make the internal business case. So I think you do have to draw that line very clearly. And of course, that is the whole point of it. So, as I said, I'm writing a book at the moment on my title of the book is Happiness is a Serious Business, and making the business case is really important. And I talk about there being 7 successes of happy teams, which is that they retain their staff more. So that's really good for the bottom line. They attract talent, because who doesn't want to work on a happy team? They have less sickness, absence, and health issues. So that's good too. They're more creative and collaborative. That's very, very critical. They're more productive, and that would include sales. And you can look at lots of evidence on sales and happiness that shows that. They're more resilient, which means they can bounce back from setbacks more. And then critically, they add business value. Companies that look after the culture of their employees have got higher share price growth, more return on assets, more profitability. So yeah. I think you have to make the business case very strongly. And even if it's just to satisfy people that's taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to doing it. It's just, I guess it's just shocking to me. And I guess this comes from, I've had the privilege of working for some amazing companies where they really did put the people first. They did put employees first and make sure that we were happy. And I alluded to Eric Yuan. His whole thing is happiness, right? And he starts with, let's create happy employees. And he literally would tell us, if you wake up in the morning and you're not happy to come to work, stay home. Don't worry about it. You'll still get paid. Stay home and think about what's truly going on for you that you're not happy, and let's deal with it. Right. But it's bold.
It's bold.
Yeah. So this is the privilege that I've had of working for CEOs. And guess and I know what that does to me. Like,
Mm.
this is why this guy is who he is to me. Like, that I would work so hard to serve him and his company. It's like, I'm passionate about what we're doing, and I'm bought in, and I'm there with him in the boat rowing, because we're all together creating this thing called Zoom, right? And
Yeah,
working to take over the world with it. It's just smart, right?
yeah,
And that was, like I say, that was my second CEO. I'm going to have
yeah,
Matt Blumberg on the show, but he was of the same mind, right? And so I've
yeah.
had the privilege of working for two great CEOs and other companies as well. Some companies that were not like that, but other companies as well that had very strong cultures around employee happiness and giving people the technology and the tools and the support that they need to do their best work. And so I guess I've just been so privileged in that. I feel like, doesn't everybody know that? Doesn't every CEO know that the way that you get more sales is through passionate people who are creating better products, who are selling with more passion, who are working harder, who are more productive and efficient? Surely every CEO knows that, don't they?
I
And
mean,
and my friend was saying, no, they don't, you idiot.
no, and I think part of it is because it's not measurable, but also maybe not understanding the causal links between it. So, why do happier people sell more? Well, if you really unpick it, it's relationships. So there's this brilliant study, which is, I think it's published now. It's been a difficult study to publish because it's very technical, but they're looking at call operators in call centers, and they work very much on their own, which is not a good way of working, by the way, because it's unhappy to work very much. But the brilliant thing from a research perspective is you're looking at the pure effect from just them to their sales. There's not like team things, there's not collaboration, it's just the effect from them to them. And they're on the call, right? And they show that happier call operators sell more than ones who are unhappy. Okay,
Of course. I
why?
mean,
But why? Why? Really get down to it. So they started unpicking what the calls were. So there were different types of calls. So there were very routine calls where people just rang in with an order. Happiness made no difference to the
no,
conversion.
sure, of course, you're taking an order. I mean, you are happy in that moment to take an order.
But yeah, but it's nothing. Get into more complex calls, particularly with disgruntled customers, and
Mhm.
the ability of the more confident, happier employees is to go off script, is to deal with complexity
Sure,
in the moment,
sure.
and that's where it is. And it's about relationships in the end. It's about the ability to build better relationships with the customer and the client. And when we're positive, so in a way, it's a very natural evolutionary thing. If I'm angry and I'm scowling, you stay away. If I'm smiling, you approach me. Now, you don't see that on a call, but you hear a tone of voice, and also just their whole way of being on it is. So it's a really important factor.
I agree. And it makes me think of something else again, back to Eric Yuan. His second thing. So he had two things. One is happiness, and the second is care. So
Yeah.
this was our uh really the overriding value in the company. We care about our employees, we care about our customers, we care about each other, we care about the world, right? And so it's the care. And what I hear you describing about those agents, the agent that will dig into angry, upset customers, is that they care, and they care about that customer, they care about the company, compared to an agent that doesn't care. Like, it's annoying to them. They don't want that call. It's just, get rid of it. I want the calls with people who just want to give me orders.
Yeah, and if the employee is not cared for by the organization, why the hell should they care about the customer?
Exactly.
Entirely congruent with their situation, that if you treat people badly, they're not going to treat your customers well. If you treat them well and you fire that spirit in them, then they're going to, that was Tony Hsieh's, philosophy,
Yeah.
and it absolutely worked, I mean, so, and it's also just a nicer way of doing business. I mean, I
Mhm.
presume that Eric cares about the legacy of what he's building as well as everything else, so, at the end of the day, have you made the world a bit better place? And I think that's what a lot of us want to do. Not everybody. Quite a lot of people are quite happy. Well, they want to make the world a better place for their family, so it's closer to them, more proximal to them. I'm
Yeah.
a little bit grandiose, and so I think the whole world. I mean, I created something called the Happy Planet Index. That's how grandiose I am. But it's like it for me. That's part of what I'm trying to do is just make a little nudge. And so that's my contribution. So I can look my kids in the eye, I can look my grandchildren, I haven't got any yet, but
Yeah.
in the eye and say, I tried. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you tried, and you're doing it, I'd say, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, I am doing it.
You are doing it. Yeah.
Frustrating how well, I mean, I think that's, if you're an innovator, the world never moves fast enough for you. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is a lot to do.
Yeah.
And but I'm trying to do the same thing. I have I feel some kinship here. I've been accused of being an idealist, and yeah, that resonates.
No, but it's not an accusation. I just think, Plato was an idealist. He had the idea of ideals, and it's like every change comes from somebody who thinks the world isn't okay. Because if you think the world's okay, you can sit there and do nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's resigned, cynical people who like to, throw out the word idealist like it's a derogatory term, and try to make people feel bad about themselves for being I want the world to be happy. I want the world to be clean and hospitable to human life. That is what I want, and that is what I'm working to create. If you want to, throw that in my face and say, oh, you're such an idealist, okay, that I'm an idealist, yes. So I embrace it. That's fine. That is I'm an idealist who has grandiose ideas of how to make the world a better place. And what I'm actually working to do is to build a network of people who want to do the same thing, and who want to help create a better world, create happiness, really, what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, happiness is at one level, it's a complex thing. Happiness, but at one level, it's very simple. It's a good bad signal. Things going good or things going badly. And if you feel happy, things are going well. And if you don't, things aren't. And that's a signal to change. There's much more complexity to that behind it. Human emotions are complex, but at the simple level, that is, and also the great thing is the causality goes both ways. If you feel good, you tend to create your own luck. You tend to create more impact because people want to work with you, people listen to you. So it's for me, it's my sort of way into it. It's not the only way into it, but I think it's very thing people can relate to. If we think about communication, I used to start off in my 20s doing quality of life statistics. This sounds rather dull, even though it's about life. I then changed to well-being, and now happiness. Suddenly you cut through. And I think that's that's interesting because we all relate to it.
Well, listen, I absolutely love what you all are doing there. I was just speaking with my first guest, Enrico Biscaro. He wrote a book called Resonance, and how to resonate with other people and to create what you want. And we were looking at the idea of communication, and talking about how the most important part of communication is listening. Right. And so if you want to, I'll say what apparently needs to be said. If you want to maximize your sales, have employees who really care about helping you do what you want to do, then the way to do that is by taking care of them, providing for their needs. And the way that you do that is by listening to what their needs are. Right. Are they happy? Do they have what they need to do their jobs? I believe, and again, I can be idealist, but I believe that people, if you hire well, and not a lot of companies don't, but if you hire well, and you find the right people who are passionate and caring, and who have displayed a track record of being caring and passionate, and you hire these people, and you meet their needs and get them on board, rowing with 100% of their might to help you build what you're trying to build, and they're not happy, then it's incumbent upon you as the CEO, you as the head of HR, you as the head of sales, you as the head of operations. It's up to you as company leaders to figure out what's going on. And the only way you're going to do that is not by talking at them. It's going to be through authentic communication, but it will not be through talking at them. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to make a difference if you're not providing the support, support through technology, the support through flexible working. That's a big deal these days. If you're not listening to what their needs are, and adjusting and meeting those needs, you know, you can hire the most caring, most passionate people in the world, but if you're not listening to them, it's not going to work. You're not going to get the sales that you want. You're not going to get the growth and expansion that you're looking for. Am I
I
wrong?
mean, I know, I agree, and of course, listening at scale is difficult. And so one of, you know, I think of our tool Friday Pulse as being a listening tool, because it's you know, it's ask you ask me or not, and that gets the good bad signal, and then if there's something that needs more attention, you go and ask more questions.
Yeah.
And you know, whereas, you know, teams are doing fine, you can let them be. So listening at scale, I think measurement really helps with that, because you
Absolutely.
can only hold 4 or 5 people in mind at any one time anyway. So if you've got an organization with thousands of people, even hundreds of people, you know, you're going to have to create some measurement around that to do that.
100%. So what we're doing, the reason why I call the company Everything Communication is not because we do everything in communication, but because we believe that communication is everything. And so what we're doing is we work with companies to look and to see, how are you utilizing communication, and what could you be doing, and what areas are there, what frictions, what challenges are there in the organization that could be solved with communication, with better communication. And so we've created like a list of minimum things that a company must be doing in 2023. And one of those things is listening to your employees. Like, how are you listening to your employees? How are you listening to your customers? Right? If everything that you want for a CEO, for VP of sales, if everything you want is sales, if everything that you want is great culture, if everything that you want is whatever the thing is, if that is on the other side of great communication, and communication is largely a function of listening, then listening tools that can help you do that it's a minimum thing. How are you not listening to your team? And like you say, on an ongoing basis, right? The more you can listen, the more you can be in tune with how the team is feeling. The more sales managers can be in tune with how their team is feeling. The more middle managers can be in tune with how the team is feeling about their manager and the frictions there and how that's not working for them. The more they can be in a position to be able to do something to create the happiness. If we don't listen, we're not going to be able to be in a position to create what we want.
Yeah, listening is powerful, and humans are better talkers than listeners, so we have to roll back sometimes. Something I've always been quite fluid with what I say, and I've had to learn to not say, so others can, and I can listen to them. And you know, and the reality is, the loudest person in the room isn't necessarily the smartest. They haven't necessarily got the best idea. They're just the loudest. Sometimes the quietest one hold the truth. So you really have to help draw things out. I mean, this is quite gendered as well, you know, in that, you know, us males can tend to be more dominant, can tend to be, you know, we've always been listened to more than our sisters.
And people of color.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that, you know, that this goes through, you know, and so listening is a sort of humility, and it's also the ability to be surprised. It's like, that's the wonderful thing. I know what I think. I don't know. So actually, I'm going to learn something that way. I mean, if I keep talking, I'm not going to learn anything. I mean, occasionally something comes out of your mouth, you think, I hadn't thought that before, but you know, but basically, it must have gone on somewhere behind the scenes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's been a pleasure, Nic. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed your TED Talk as well. The Happy Planet Index. I really enjoyed that. It's cool stuff there. So tell the people where they can find you.
FridayPulse.com is my company. I've got a little website myself, nicmarks.org, but and that I work on a book, but LinkedIn is where it's the only social media I can bear, actually. So that's what I do. You know?
It is a great network, isn't it? It's my favorite.
Yeah, and I'm not good at Twitter. I mean, I tried it a bit some years ago. I got angry.
Yeah, it's a very angry place.
So I did try and read. Yeah, I just couldn't go with it, and I don't think I ever will go with it. So LinkedIn is where I'm at.
Wonderful. Nick, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
you.
so much.